am like, I'm sitting here mortified. Like today, I was seeing that there were, or the other day, there were all these wildfires in Israel. And we know it's because of all the non-native trees that were planted. And so, of course, I had to go and find the picture of myself planting said trees, no doubt on top of some demolished Palestinian village. And that was in the summer of '87. And then after I left, then it was the first Intifada. So you're sitting there finding solutions, and I'm a tool of ethnic cleansing. Yeah. That's where now I was 16, so I was a little bit younger and raised extremely Zio, and very brainwashed, probably in a way that you weren't in your upbringing.
Not to the extent we're all brainwashed to some extent in the United States with just the propaganda machine and then the way the media kind of portrays this issue. When I first went to Palestine, I was shocked because, you're fed this one kind of narrative of who they are and how they are. And then you go and you meet these amazing people who are so kind and generous and hospitable and opening their homes and opening their lives to you. And I'm an American. I'm responsible for their suffering. I'm responsible for the misery and the loss that they've endured in their lives. And they've been nothing but kind and hospitable to me. And I that changed my life a lot, just meeting people who are just so amazingly open and kind and generous in the face of such inhumanity.
Steve, despite how bad things have been over the past 18 months, do you believe that a corner has been turned regarding Israel-Palestine in terms of the Zionist state and what it will ultimately become going forward? Jen and I both are of the mind that the state will fall, that there is no coming back from this. This is a point of no return that they've crossed. And it's just a question of how, not if, but when the American population rises up and says the support of Israel is finished.
Well, I think it's a very complicated question. And the reason it's complicated is because we don't know how those who wield power on a global scale, and certainly on this issue, it's almost the same thing, how they use technology and how they're able to go 18 months into a genocide and commit the kind of crimes that the whole world has witnessed and watched and get away with it. And not only get away with it, but double down. Of course, Israel has lost its moral compass a long time ago. And when I first started my work on the ground in Palestine, there was, Israel was kind of like the United States in some way, at least the U.S. Not so long ago, where you had the Labor Party and the Likud, and the Labor was kind of this social progressive Zionist, and the Likud were the more right-wing one. And now the Likud is this kind of marginal, so-called not left at all, but I mean, that's what's considered the progressive Israeli ideology now. And the far extreme right are the ones who are just calling for the absolute annihilation of every man, woman, and child in Palestine. So things have shifted so dramatically. So Israel has shifted significantly, far more even than our own country here. And how that plays out for, as you say, is going to fall or something like that, it's hard to say. I mean, yes, Israel is no longer, things have shifted significantly. We see it, a lot of it's a generational shift, meaning that, the young people in this country and globally, they don't use traditional media. They don't read the New York Times. They don't watch CNN or Fox. They get
thankfully.
So they get the media from the source. They get their information from the source, which is very powerful. And that's why they're having a hard time kind of convincing these people that the Zionist narrative on the issue of Palestine is the correct one, because it's not. And everybody can see that. The brutality, the injustice, the cruelty, the inhumanity that's being imposed so brutally on the Palestinians every single day. You can't whitewash that through the traditional means that they've always gotten away with it. In 1982, they committed the Sabra Shatila massacre. And, if that was to happen today, of course, our attention spans are much shorter, but I think things have changed. And now you have a young generation now that don't buy into it any longer. They see what's happening. They see the stories. They see the suffering. They see the dead children, the bombed tents, the starving kids, everything that Israel is doing, it's for the world to witness. Now, the older generation are buying it or still kind of using the traditional means of acquiring their information and believing it, but the vast majority of people no longer do. And that's why they're resorting to these kind of methods of not just silencing people, but doing so in an arbitrary manner, which is, you can't debate people. You can't counter them with the truth. You can't stand and make a moral argument for your cause. So you threaten them. You use these very autocratic methods to silence people from speaking the truth. or you commit acts of violence against them. And that's what they've resorted to because they have no other way. So yes, they've lost their ability to even counter those who are, I don't want to say pro-Palestine, but anti-genocide. They can't even counter them. So they just use every kind of method they can to silence us. And it's not working, and it's not going to work. And I think they know that, and that's why they're desperate and becoming more and more desperate.
That's what I think. Oh, I just wanted to say that you definitely found like a niche in the most horrible thing that's happened that I can think of. You have found this niche where like there's this joy involved in what you have done. And I felt that at the airport, and it's like, I'm going to cry. And it's like I can't think of a better way to contribute where it actually, that was the only thing that felt good to me that I did in like a year and a half, like that actually just felt good. And then I simultaneously, mind you, felt the whole premise of this was a sign that we have failed as a species. Like the fact that this entire thing has to exist is a failure on us as a species, but it was the only thing that felt good to me. You know what I mean? Like you found some way, like it's amazing.
So one of the reasons we do the airport greetings, and one of the reasons we started Heal Palestine, it's as much to heal our communities and to heal ourselves, because we're all traumatized. Not the way Palestinians in Gaza are traumatized. That's never been done in the history of mankind, but certainly traumatized to the extent that, we're witnessing this horrific, brutal genocide happening, and we're feeling helpless and hopeless about it. So there is an element of trauma that our entire communities, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Arab, whatever, if you're on the side of justice and you're a human being, you're traumatized. So by having these kids come and welcomed by this large community of people who are waving flags and giving them gifts and cheering them and showing them the love and compassion that they deserve and they haven't felt in so long, that also heals us. And that gives us the strength and hope and power to keep going, the courage to keep going, because this is a long struggle. It's just starting. And we have to be in it for the long term. And we cannot give up because we don't feel that we have a role to play in healing and helping the people there. We do, and we can. And that's why we started this organization, to give more people a chance to be involved. That's why we're a grassroots organization. That's why kids, when they come into the communities where they're being treated, they have host families. They have volunteers who take them to their appointments. They have volunteers who visit them in the hospital or take them out to the park or take them to get ice cream or whatever they need. We want people to be involved. This is your organization. This is a chance for you to use your time, use your energy, and use your compassion and kindness, and to give it to somebody who's been treated in such a horrific, inhumane manner that is often beyond the ability to even accurately describe what's happening. Yeah. Which airport were you at, though, by the way?
Fort Lauderdale.
I wish I was there. I'm so sad I wasn't able to make there, but I am coming down soon to start a Heal community there. But we have a boy who arrived in Cleveland, a 12-year-old boy named Mohammed, and he arrived with a bunch of other kids who came from Chicago. We came into Chicago, and I took him over to Cleveland, where he's been getting treatment. And this boy, 12 years old, he lost his two other brothers in a bombing, his only other brothers. And he came with one leg amputated and another leg, which they were trying to save, and they couldn't. So they amputated his other leg. So he has this poor mother who's with him. She has lost her only two sons, her two other sons, and her only surviving son is now here and now a double amputee. And meanwhile, her family's back in Gaza being starved to death, her husband, her other kids. And every day she's on the phone with them, talking to them, making sure they're alive, but they're telling her, I don't have food. Our shelter, we don't have shelter. The bombs are going off around her. And you multiply that by every child and every family we have in this country. 35 kids now being treated here in the US. And you multiply that by the thousands, because this is what every single Palestinian outside is going through, which is this feeling of guilt, this feeling of trauma and anxiety. Was my family going to be alive? And I'm outside. I have a meal to eat today. I have shelter over my head. I'm safe. So you can imagine the trauma they're feeling. So having the community come and show her and help her and and give her the compassion and love that she needs and the support, it's such a healing process. It's just a human process. And that's what we're, as an organization, deeply, deeply committed to. And that's why we ask people like yourselves to come out, welcome the kids, but then also get involved with our organization and be a part of it.
Yeah, now I know you're going to have a branch. Like I was going to say, how can I help you? Like I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in South Florida, but wherever I go, I'm very willing to help. That was like the coolest thing.